haven't felt pressure until you speak in a podium with a picture of Donald Trump right in front of you. I mean, talk about putting the bar really high. Thank you all for having me. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Deborah, thank you for taking me seriously when I asked you if I could approach the group. Let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here because we are engaged in the battle for our lives. We are engaged in a battle for the future of the country like I have never seen it before. I am sure that all of you here as a recording, this is the most important election. I'm not even going to go there. This is the most important battle for the future of the country, for its very existence, that you and I have ever seen. Never in the history of our country, except for the Civil War, have we been engaged in a battle that will determine the future of our country. Make no mistake. So I'm here to ask you, to beg you, to implore you to please get me out before your groups, because I have some information for you. I have some information for you from the standpoint of healthcare. Because here's how they're going to do it. And I tell people this all the time. They're going to do this using 3 pillars. You can see it in front of you. There are 3 pillars that they're using to destroy us. Why to destroy us? Because they're going to use that to knock the fear out of into us, so that then they can take over and do something that's absolutely atrocious. I'll even call it evil. The 3 pillars are the environment. Because in the name of the environment, the government can do anything to protect you. Because after all, we have to protect you. Because you're ruining the environment. All right, yeah, we have to take care of the environment, there's no question. But it's not about the environment, it's about taking power. It's about instilling fear in you so that you will vote for them so that they can take power and turn this country into something other than a democracy. Second pillar that they use, healthcare. That's why I'm here. Healthcare. Because in order to keep you healthy, the government needs to do anything that it needs to do to keep you healthy. And let me tell you, I wrote that book that you see up there, The Case for Free Market Healthcare, to dispel that argument. And then all of a sudden it played out before us with coronavirus. Coronavirus has been an experiment. It has been a laboratory exercise in seeing what happens when you unleash the Democrats, when you unleash the left, when you unleash people who believe in the centralization of power without one feather. And then the third pillar is hatred. They're going to instill the hatred because blacks are supposed to hate whites, and whites are supposed to hate Asians, and Asians are supposed to hate Cubans, and everybody's supposed to hate everybody because we are all part of an evil society, and divided we will fall. My friends, this is absolutely a lie, and we cannot allow it to happen. Let me ask you, let me see if this sounds familiar to you. I'm going to take you back to 1775. 1775. General Montgomery had a great idea. Maybe we should go into Quebec. And I think it was a great idea, if only we had pulled it off, because the Canadian states. But I digress. We should go into Quebec, and we should take Quebec, and we should include Canada into the Revolutionary War, 1775. So, in early December, they amassed a bunch of troops whose contracts expired on January 1st, 1776. Okay, so we had to do this now. And they marched by Rochester, they marched into the border, they're ready to go. But the British find out about it. And there's a pandemic going on. It's not a pandemic, it's an epidemic. An epidemic where 30 to 50% of the people who contracted it died. Okay? Let's put this in perspective. Our pandemic, right now, it's about 0.4% death rate. 0.4. Imagine half the people could die was happening in Boston. It was happening in New York. It was happening in Philadelphia. These pandemics were breaking out. And that the agent was smallpox. So the British get some smallpox-infected people, and they have them go and hang out with the American soldiers. And guess what? It was the first successful biological warfare attack in history, in recorded history. You don't read about it. Does that sound familiar to you? Substitute the word China. What ended up happening was our troops got this terrible wave of smallpox. They were all sick, but they had a December 31st deadline when they went into battle on December 31st. Before their contracts expired, they got whipped. Now there may have been some other strategic things that people will tell you, historians will tell you about, but the point of fact, they were battling with sick troops. And we lost. And it was the first big campaign loss of the American Revolution. Montgomery got killed and Benedict Arnold lost his leg. He later went on to lose his own. I'm going to tell you, I mean, this is what we're talking about. And I'm going to tell you how they're doing it because they're doing it right now. They're not doing it in the future. These are not hypotheticals. These are things that they're doing right now. For example, right now, I just today, just to make sure that I still have my facts right, in my book, The Free Market, The Case of Free Market Healthcare, you will see that I report that there are 242 medicines of which we are short in the United States. 242 medications that we are short on in the United States. The first time I got a clue about this, you know what the first time I got a clue about this was? Because I kept getting letters in my hospital. In my hospital, I kept getting, "Dear doctor, today we're short on epinephrine." So, see what you can do by not using epinephrine. Today we're short on lidocaine. You guys know what lidocaine is? It's a little thing. We're short on that. We're short on azithromycin. We're short. We don't even produce penicillin in this country. Okay? And so I started looking these things up, and you know why it is that we're short on these medicines? The hospital will tell you because it's a national backlog. Okay, why is there a national backlog? Because the moment that the manufacturer loses his 7-year patent, the reimbursement for that medicine goes way down, and Medicare controls the profit that that company is allowed to make. Free market in the United States? I think not. So what happens is, as soon as the medication loses its patent, they stop producing it. And nobody wants to do the generic because there just isn't enough money. So instead we go to China, and we have shortages. You know what the most common class of shortaged medicines in the United States is? IV anti-cancer medicines. IV anti-cancer medicines. Generic. Because we don't have free market. In the last decade, over 200 projects of creating new emergency rooms were shut down because Medicare decided that they were going to reimburse a hospital that builds a satellite emergency room within 6 miles of the hospital. And we have an emergency room shortage. And you know why? Because they thought they made too much money. In my community, one year we lost 12 cardiologists. In my community, Sarasota County, do you know why? Because Medicare decided, one year they decided, you know what, we really need them to do more invasive procedures in an outpatient setting. In an outpatient setting, we're going to do it. And then 4 or 5 years later, after the doctors took out the mortgaged their homes, bought their practices, built a building to do the portable catheterizations, they changed their mind and they cut the reimbursement rate. And these guys went all bankrupt, went all belly up. They either went to Wyoming, where they don't have to face Medicare patients, or they got bought by the hospitals, which is another way that the government controls. Because all they're doing is really setting up mini hospital oligopolies all over the country, which is so much easier. Your doctor is so much easier to control if they belong to a hospital than if they stand up for themselves. This is unconscionable, the situation that we have. And it's a situation that we must stop. And there's only one guy
That's right.
that I know of that has the guts, the courage, the stamina, and the resolve to fix it. And so maybe someday I'll be able to share some of these thoughts with him. But in the meantime, we got an election win, we got a battle win, and that falls squarely on you. I forgot to tell you, I told you the 3 pillars. I forgot to tell you the 4 tools. You know what the 4 tools are? Media. How are they going to accomplish this? Through the media. And I mean Hollywood too, not just the press. They're going to take away your guns. They're going to take away your God. And they're going to make you rely on government in order to make these things accomplished. We cannot allow this to happen. I'm going to close with another little story. I'm going to take you back to 1775 again. There was a doctor back then. His name was Joseph Warren. Joseph Warren loved his country. Of course, it's 1775. So he loved the concept of his country. He actually solicited that great ride in Boston that took place, calling out for the British Republic. Okay? That guy escaped in April from Boston to go to Concord and Lexington and actually directed the troops in Concord and Lexington. That was a doctor who did that. He got made brigadier general. And so by June, he found himself at Bunker Hill. And when he got to Bunker Hill, they told him, okay, well, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to fight as a private. And he said, where's the best place where I can fight? And they told him, Breed Hill. And he went to Breed Hill and he fought and he died. And the British were so ecstatic that they had killed this terrible traitor by the name of Joseph Warren that they mutilated his body. They could not identify his body. He was decapitated. He was the first forensic identification of a cadaver. You know who did it? The guy that he hired to do the ride to call about the British are coming, Paul Revere. How did Paul Revere identify the body? Because Paul Revere made the tooth filling for Warren with his silver. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to allow Joseph Warren to die in vain because some thugs have decided that it's a good idea to wreak havoc in Portland. We are not going to allow this country to fall apart because some thugs in Seattle think that CHOP is a good acronym. Jefferson did not write the Declaration of Independence so that they would be abandoned on my watch. George Washington didn't put it all on the line so that we would allow it to escape our hands. The brave men of Fort McHenry, they didn't put their lives on the line while those cannons were being shot so that the American flag would someday represent something else. And 600,000 people didn't die in the Civil War to allow some false argument about race relations in this country.
Absolutely.
It's time for you all to stand up. It's time for us to stand up. It's time for us to elect Byron Donald. With whom I served in the state legislature, and a brighter light from the Republican Party I could not have come across. God bless you, Byron. So please, as I say goodbye, come over, say hello, get my card, get me your crew. Let's fire them up. Get the information in the book, read the books. Because the war that we're going to win is going to be a war that's going to be done on information. And we have the concepts, we have the ideas. All they have on the other side is fear and hate. God bless you all. God bless you.